Hello again. Um, I hope you're having a happy Friday. I hope this is still working like it usually ends up doing just fine. Um, my name is Jack, and I will be, as usual, your instructor for today, Friday, March 12th. I really hope you've had a good week. I know this week was particularly difficult for me. This was a long one for sure, so I hope we've all made it through to this prized sunny weekend uh, here in Atlanta. So that's super exciting. Uh, as usual, as we move through this practice, we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the response to this video during the live stream, and I will get to them as soon as I can, which might not be immediately, but it might be, within a minute or two. If I see it pop up, I'll make sure I check it out. I know someone last week requested to go live with me if they had a question. And I didn't get to it fast enough. I didn't really understand exactly what they were asking, and I checked with my coordinator, and they said if somebody wanted to go live and ask a question with me, that would be fine. But please don't feel pressured to do that if you don't want to. With that, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a minute or two. I was thinking today would probably be a low to the ground, kind of like how we were doing our practices back in January and February, as opposed to kind of the standing active flows we've been doing the past few weeks. I think we'll focus a little bit on dolphin again, and possibly also plow as well. I think those will be our heavy practices for the day. And we'll probably spend a few more minutes towards the end, make sure there's enough time for a reflection. So yeah, with that, we'll take just a second. We're going to start seated in lotus today. However, it doesn't matter if we want to start in mountain, if we want to start in lotus, or we want to start in our shavasana. Any version of that is fine. We're going to take the first couple of minutes and focus on our breathing, and then send ourselves into some earth salutations to get going, and we'll move on from there. So as we're preparing to take on this practice, we're going to develop our yoga breath. Deep inhales and exhales through our nose. Sitting nice and tall, our shoulders are relaxed. Releasing any tension we hide in the neck. Dedicating ourselves to this next 50 minutes or so of practice. Finding our peace here. Letting our worldly problems disappear for a short period of time, and focusing solely on our present space, our existence here in this moment. Starting to make some rotations at our neck, kind of going around in either a clockwise or a counterclockwise direction, while leaving our body from the neck down completely still. maybe noticing some tension or some slight cracks in one direction. Keeping note of that as we go the other way, swapping the direction. Making sure the muscles near our face, our upper back stay limber. Keeping them loose. Slowly stopping and returning to our center. We're going to begin to flow through some earth salutations. So for our earth salutations, we're going to shift our weight forward and start in a child's pose. So coming out, legs behind us, we sit into our heels in between them. We reach out in front of us and come down, bringing our face towards the earth here, our arms extended out in front of us. And we first find that yoga breathing here. When we're ready, we'll lift up into our tabletop position, nice and stable. We'll flow through a couple of our cat-cows. So we want to start with our wrists in line with our shoulders, our knees with our hips here. And we'll increase our gaze up as our back arches inward, creating a U shape for our cow as we breathe in. And we exhale into our cat, changing the direction, tucking our pelvis inward, our chin down, returning back into our cow as on the inhale. Exhaling into our cat here. Lost my hat. Exhaling out. Returning back to our nice neutral tabletop position, nice and stable. Holding this tabletop for just 1 second before we transition into our camel. So for our camel, we're going to close our stance in our legs a little bit. We're going to lift up, coming on top of our knees here. We're going to make small fists with our hands, place them in the small of our back, and take a small back extension using our fists to support us. If we're coming back and notice we have a lot of back flexibility, we can take our hands to our ankles and really allow ourselves to extend open. Holding whichever variation of camel we've chosen. It is personal preference. Slowly coming out here, back into our tabletop, nice and easy. We tuck our toes under, our hips lift, we come into our downward facing dog. Our first one of the day. We hold it here for just a second, really getting deep into that downward facing dog. We extend that left leg up. Our left leg lifts nice and high, trying to get it as high as possible for our three-legged dog. We hold, and we come on down, replant, and then take that right leg up, same thing. Exhale to bring it back down. We shift our weight forward, coming into our plank. We take our chaturanga, so we drop down onto the ground, release the tops of our feet, and lift up into our upward facing dog. Our shoulders pull away from our ears here, and we can try to relax our glutes if we notice they're engaged. Opening our hips and then pressing back into our child's pose. Taking a quick little rest here,
Now, Earth salutations are kind of like our sun salutations. The only difference, we're keeping it a little bit lower to the ground. Can activate different muscles in a similar way. And it's kind of more preparatory for the way our class is going to go today. When we're ready, we'll take our second round. So coming back into that tabletop position, nice and stable. Running through 3 cats and 3 cows each. We can go at our own pace. Inhaling for our cow. Exhaling for our cat. Inhaling for our cow. Exhaling for our cat here. One more cow. One more cat. Slowly return to that tabletop. And we'll press up to take our camel of choice. Know we can first make the fists, come to the small in our back, and extend out. Or we can come back into our ankles as well and use them as support. Again, just personal preference and body mobility today. Next, exhale, slowly come out of that camel. Returning back to our tabletop. Toes tuck under, hips lift. We come back into our downward facing dog. Left leg goes up first. We reach that one nice and high, really extending it, attempting for the vertical splits, so to speak. Next, exhale, slowly come down. Right leg comes up this time. Next, exhale, slowly release. We shift from our downward facing dog into our plank of choice. We can be in high plank. We can be on our knees in low plank. It's just personal preference. We'll rotate our elbows inward. We'll take our chaturanga coming down onto the ground. And then pressing up to come into our upward facing dog. Remembering to keep our shoulders away from our ears, really activating them here. Releasing the tops of our feet if our toes are still dug into the ground. And attempting to relax our glutes if that's possible. On that next exhale, we'll transition back into our child's pose. Now, from our child's pose, we're going to take just a second here, hold it a little bit longer, and find our yoga breath again. In case we lost it, I'm going to change my angle here so I can show you what we're doing next. We're going to stay in our child's pose, however, we're going to kind of angle ourselves out to the left and right. So we're going to start with our left side. We're going to take our left arm, walk it to our left, walk our right arm to meet it as far as we can without moving our lower body. And keep those arms out extended in front of us. We'll notice a deep stretch all along the right side of our body because the friction of the ground will allow us to maintain this hold a little bit easier. Hold in here. Letting that stretch just sit in. If we notice anything starts to get a little bit too tense, we can always slip out and come back into our neutral child's pose, not feeling pressured to hold anything longer than we feel like we should. All of us know our bodies better than anybody else. On that next exhale, we'll come back in towards our center and work our way out to the right side this time. So right arm really reaches out, left arm goes over to meet it, and we do the same thing. We just hold here, this time really stretching the left side. Sorry about that. Had a little whistle come out of my breath. Breathing steadily with our yoga breathing here. We're going to hold just a little bit longer if we can. That's in our practice today. Slowly come out of it back to our center here. We're going to lift up and come back into our lotus. So we're going to swing our legs around back to our neutral center here. And we're going to make some more rotations, much like we did with our necks in the very beginning. However, we're going to start with our hips and then extend into our staff and move that even further. So starting with our hips, we're going to do the same thing, keeping our lower portion of our body glued to our practicing space here. We're going to start to make some movements at our hips in either the clockwise or the counterclockwise direction. Really trying to get those hips nice and relaxed, increase their mobility. Now from our lotus, we do want to try to keep our knees as close to the ground as possible. We may notice that our own mobility limits this a little bit, and that's okay. We're just doing our best to keep them down. It ain't about how well we actually totally do it all the time. It's all about intention here. Making sure we keep our breathing nice and stable. Taking one more rotation in this first direction. Now, once we finish this one, we'll reverse the direction nice and slow. We may notice that it's a little bit easier to rotate in one direction than the other. And that is just fine. We might just be a little bit more dominant in our balance today. It's nothing I personally would be much concerned about. We do want to maintain our yoga breathing, our intention, our purpose. So we make these rotations. We'll stop here and come back into our center. Now, while in our lotus position, before transitioning further, we got a few more circles to make with our ankles and our knees. We're going to open our stance wide and straddle our space as best we can. And we're going to start to come out in front of us, reaching as far forward as possible, like we're trying to bring our chest down to the ground. We're really going to feel some firing on our hip abductors on the inside here. We're also going to feel a little bit in our hamstrings and a little bit on our muscles that connect our quads to our core. Now we might have the mobility to bring our chest all the way to the ground, but as I'm certain you all can see, I don't have that mobility, and it's okay. It's all about intention, much like we were saying before. On that next exhale, we come back to our center.
we're going to bring our right leg in first. Right leg tucks in. And we're going to take our left arm and extend out towards that left foot, either grabbing the tops of our toes or grabbing the knife edge, so the outside portion of our foot. We're going to take our right arm and extend that parallel to our ear as we lean into our left side. We may notice our shoulder wants to come down and kind of really reach for it. We want to keep it stacked. We want to keep it parallel to the ear. Rotate our body a little more maybe. Open up our QL, open up our lats here, our shoulders. Still breathing. Slowly coming back in towards the center. We'll switch kick our legs here. I'm going to adjust a wee bit. Right leg comes out, left leg goes in. Same idea. Right hand goes to grab the top or the knife edge of our right foot. Our left arm comes parallel to the ear, keeping it from flopping over. And reaching out towards that right foot. If we notice ourselves falling into that rotation, we just want to actively think about keeping ourselves out. I know myself, I'm having to fight falling into that collapsing left shoulder here. Slowly lifting out of that one. We'll bring both feet to our center here, coming out to meet in our staff position. Again, as always, I like to move a little meat away from my glutes. Allows myself to sit a little bit taller. That might help some of y'all with that as well. We're going to keep our legs pretty straight and take one full extension here, reaching out towards the ankles or beyond, the best of our abilities. Slowly returning back to our center here. A lot of flexibility in hip work today. A little bit of back, but our focus is elsewhere. Now we're going to start, I'm going to avoid putting my feet in front of the camera there, but we're going to make those same rotations. So sitting nice and tall in our staff position, our shoulders relaxed. We're going to make those same rotations with our feet that we were doing with our hips. So that's our goal for this movement. We sit nice and tall, our backs are nice and elongated. There's an imaginary string lifting our posture very straight as we make these rotations in our ankles. Starting with maybe the clockwise direction and then transitioning to our counterclockwise after maybe 6 or 7 in the clockwise direction. Switching our directions if we haven't already. Keeping that steady breathing. Slowly stopping our rotation here. We're going to start with that right leg and we're going to lift it up in our leg pit. And we're going to make that full rotation going at the knee. We can pull it in as tight as we'd like to here. We're working on our last bit of rotations, so just our right leg and our left leg at the knee to go. But in between the two, we're going to perform a couple of extra things here. Making sure to switch directions. And we're going to tuck this right leg in. We're going to pull it right in nice and tight as we come down. I'm going to adjust a little further. We're going to really try to straighten it out and pull it up as tightly as possible. We're going to take our left hand, we're going to grasp the outside, round the outside of that right leg. We're going to take our left arm, stick it up behind us, and as we pull with that left arm to pull it in, we're going to rotate out and beyond that knee. Keeping our backs as straight as possible throughout our rotation, not collapsing it. We want to stay nice and long and tall here. Two more inhales and exhales. On that last exhale, return into our center. We're going to take our right arm this time and grasp just below the curve in our leg with our elbow or forearm. We're going to take our left hand and we can take our fingers and grab the knife edge of our foot. Where if our mobility is a little bit more today, we can take that leg and put it in our elbow and rock our leg like a little baby. Really taking our rotations seriously, pulling it in nice and tight, keeping the baby close. We have a secure grip on our leg here, don't want to drop it. Don't want to curve our spines, we want to stay nice and long. One more curve in and out here. Slowly releasing that right leg down and out to meet the left. Same idea, left leg comes in this time. We tuck it in nice and tight here. Pull it in as close to our body as possible. We'll take our right hand this time, place that one on the outside. Left hand comes out behind us. And we start to rotate out as we pull that right leg in. I guess pull it across might be a better determination than in. Personal preference, I guess, though. Still breathing. Steady, easy. Next exhale, we come back in towards our center. I guess we never made the rotation with that left leg, so we'll do that now. We'll take our fingers, interlock them in our leg pit here. We'll lift that left leg up, and we'll just start to make our rotations. In first, the clockwise direction we find, possibly the counterclockwise. It is just preference. We do want to make sure we take roughly an even number. So we don't want to do 20 on the right and 1 on the left. You know, if we have 7 and 8, that would be fine. Switching directions here, or whenever we're ready. Slowly releasing. However, we are going to keep that left leg in nice and tight because we are still going to cradle the baby. Left elbow in at the squeeze here. If we have the mobility, we can grab that leg with our right elbow. We still want to keep that back nice and straight, even if we can get into this cradled solution. If that is something in our practice today, if it requires us to arch our backs and pull forward, we don't want to do it. We want to stay nice and tall, nice and strong here. Maybe taking 2 more rotations. Slowly releasing, coming out, extending that leg out in front of us. We're going to take ourselves into quarter pigeons here. So we're going to take this right leg, tuck it in. We're going to shoot this left leg kind of behind us. So we're bending ourselves forward. Our right leg should be at about a 90-degree angle in front of us. Our left leg should be bent out kind of backwards behind us. So our left leg kind of is coming up and back, or even further if possible. And this front right leg, which is hinged at a 90-degree angle out in front of us, I wish I could show a better angle. We're going to come forward just on top of it here. For our quarter pigeons, we're just going to hold right here, trying to keep as stable as possible. I know it isn't always easy and something new. We can, of course, stay on our hands if forearms are not in our mobility range today. It's just personal preference. Making sure we're still breathing with a purpose. Slowly coming back in. We're going to switch that around, so we'll release our pigeon here. We'll bring our left leg out in front of us. We'll send our right leg out behind us. That right leg is now taking that funky bend out in front. Our left leg is now at that 90-ish degree angle. We'll do the same thing. We'll come right out in front of it if possible. Really trying to activate the muscles that extend beyond our glute, our sitting muscles, the ones that are active all the time as we're sitting down. We're just going to breathe and take it easy here for a second. One more inhale and exhale. On that next inhale, we'll lift up. And coming back into our lotus for a second. Just breathing for a wee minute. We are going to practice just a couple of more things before we get down to our backs. We've been prepping for our dolphin a little bit, so we're going to try that out here just a second. So keeping that in mind. When we're ready, we'll transition our weight forward, pulling out and coming into a tabletop position, swinging ourselves around. And of course, while we're in this tabletop position, or maybe before we come to it, we can take a second and get a little bit of water. I know I haven't offered a chance to stay hydrated. Please feel free to always stay hydrated. Stop at any moment and get some water. We always want to make sure we're getting enough fluids in our system, especially as it starts to heat up this year. So, when we're ready, we'll come back to our tabletop. We'll tuck our toes under. We'll lift our feet here, preparing for our dolphin. So, we've done a lot of work prepping our hips, our mobility, a little bit of work on our forearms. We are going to hold this downward facing dog for just a second, making sure our shoulders get a little bit warmer before jumping into our dolphin. Dolphin can be just a little bit strange and difficult. This is a newer one for myself, although I personally have been working on it a good bit, trying to make sure I can share it with everybody here. If we do want to try dolphin, we can stay in this downward facing dog for a second. This is how we're going to prep for our dolphin. Our goal here is to come down onto our forearms, staying in that downward facing dog position. We'll kind of open them a little bit wider and get comfy to put our head in between our forearms and walk our feet as close as possible together. There should be very little weight in our neck and our head. Most of the weight should be in our forearms there, as well as in our feet. If we're in dolphin, feel free to stay there for a second, hold it as long as you can. If we were just observing the first time, we want to go again. Our goal is to come up into a downward facing dog. We drop down into our forearms. Make sure we're sturdy there. We place our head in between just for stability. Weight is in our forearms here. And we tuck our feet as close as possible. It's a short one for me. My collapsing mobility is a little tight, but maybe that's something all of us could try and practice on. I know that's a fun one for myself. So that was our first little power move for the day. Regardless, if we were in dolphin still holding it, we're going to press up and come back into our downward facing dog. From our downward facing dog, we are going to take that left leg lift. We're going to lift it up nice and high just like before, except this time we're going to open it out and get some rotation in here. Really drifting it out towards our right side. We're going to hold and rotate back in. We start to drop our weight and shift it forward. We pull that right leg in nice and tight, and we shift and step it through. We drop that right knee. We release the top of our foot here. We put a lot of that weight in that front left heel and that front left leg as we lift up, off. Here, our arms come up. The weight is in that front left leg. We have almost no weight in our heel. We're very asymmetrical in our weight distribution here. Slowly reframing that left foot. We tuck our toes back into the ground here. We extend that right leg up. We shoot that left leg back. We come back into that downward facing dog. We do the other side. That right leg comes up, lifts nice and high. We rotate open. Really feeling that in our obliques here, in the front side of our hips.
We slowly come out. We transition our weight through. We tuck and hold and drop. We place our left knee down. We release our toes there. We lift up, coming onto that front right foot now. Maybe getting a little bit taller to reduce that angle from our ankle to our knee. Slowly reframing that front foot. Toes on our left leg tucked back under. Foot extends. Right leg shoots back. We're in our downward facing dog. We shift our weight forward to our plank, high or low. Elbows tuck in. We chaturanga down. One more upward facing dog here. Really release some tension that we might be holding in our spine from those last couple of moves. And we'll counter that with a child's pose here. Letting ourselves start to relax. The rest of our practice from here on out is going to be on the ground. We just have to take ourselves there. When we're ready, we'll slowly lift back up. We'll swing our legs around to meet in a lotus. I'm just going to angle myself here to make myself look more viewable. Take just a couple of deep breaths. And we'll make our way down onto our backs here. We are still going to take ourselves into a bridge today for the back flexibility. However, we got a little bit of preparatory work. And then we're going to take just a slightly longer Shavasana this week. Because I think the mental is much needed for a lot of people right now. All right. So from our lotus, we'll extend into a staff position. We'll use our strong abs to slowly allow ourselves to lower down. Nice and easy. We release onto the ground here. We're going to take our legs, we're going to pull them in nice and tight for a fetal position. Our goal in our fetal position here is to really pull our glutes off of the ground. We want to really hug ourselves nice and tight. We want to feel the length in our tailbone. Our goal is to be very long. Imagining ourselves getting taller as we straighten out our body a little bit. Maybe feeling some tension in the front side of our hips as well, on the reverse side of the action. Releasing those legs down, nice and easy. We're going to start with bridges. So if our feet are in the ground and our legs are making a nice triangle shape, we should be having our ankles just out of arm's reach. If we have an easy time reaching our ankles with our hands, we want to come out just a little bit further. Kind of adjusting to be just out of reach. That's our goal. When we have found our preparatory bridge position, we'll start by just lifting our glutes. Really thinking of lifting our glutes. The weight is in our glutes, not in our heels. It's like we're pushing ourselves up. Actually, there's some weight in our heels. We just want to avoid it in our spine. We can use our glutes to lift. We can use our heels to lift. We just don't want our spines to lift. That's our main goal. Sorry for the confusion. Lifting as high as we can. Nice and gentle on the backs here. Slowly coming down. Now we can do the same extension again, or we can go a little bit further by wiggling our shoulders into the ground. So I'm going to adjust just a little bit, make sure that I'm nice and visible here. If we want to follow along with me. Again, same idea as before, just out of reach. We lift up, and we'll start to wiggle our shoulders under, interlocking our fingers, which will allow us to press just a little bit higher if we decide to take it to the next step. Please don't feel like we have to. Again, we should just trust our bodies with what feels the most right for us today, how we want to challenge ourselves, and to what extent. Holding for 3, 2, release, coming down nice and easy. This has prepped ourselves, put us in a slightly better position to take on our plows today. So we'll jump right on that. Again, I'm going to scoot just a little more forward this time. Make sure we're all in view range. For those of us who don't want to do plow, we are more than welcome to just stay in our bridges as we've been doing before. If we do want to do plow but are a little bit unsure, I will demonstrate this first one just as a reference for everybody who wants it. So our goals will kind of start in that bridge-like position. We'll tuck our elbows into the ground, use our triceps as strength. We'll lift off and come into a shoulder stand. We can, of course, come this far and decide to stay right here. We want to keep our backs as straight as possible. And if we do want to entertain the idea of plow, we just start to bring those legs beyond our heads and extend them out beyond us. If we do come into plow, we want to make sure we keep our neck nice and straight, just gazing upward at the ceiling. We don't want to be turning left and right. And when we're coming out, we want to make sure we take it back into the shoulder stand first, find our stability, and then slowly come down nice and easy. That's our goal for plow. That's what we're going to do right now, taking a good minute or two to give that a try. This is absolutely great. The bridges, the shoulder stands, and the plow for a little extra tightness all around our backs here. This gives us some great lengthening stretches to do for all of these. So again, we can start with the bridge. We can hang out in the bridge. We can hang out in the shoulder bridge. We can lift into our shoulder stand or come into our plow. I encourage everybody to give something a try. Maybe push beyond our comfort zone just a little bit. That's our goal. And we'll go ahead and take just a second and do that now. wherever we are, holding for 2 more breaths. Next exhale, start to lower ourselves out of it wherever we are. Hopefully that was at least halfway entertaining. I think plow is a lot of fun, and I think it makes me feel nice and loose. So I hope that was as beneficial to everybody as it was for me. I know that's a fun one. From here we'll start to wind down. So we're going to do a couple of spinal twists before coming into our Shavasana. Most of our practice has been on the ground and will end just the same way. So I'm adjusting to make it a little bit easier to come across here. We're going to open our arms to a wide T shape if possible. If we don't have the possibility to open our arms to a wide T, we can stay in a low A shape as well, or we can come into a Y out ahead of our face. However, a T shape is ideal here. We'll start with that right leg. We'll bring that right leg to a 90-degree angle. We're going to use our left leg and dig it in the ground to lift up and rotate our hips to allow us to bring that right leg all the way across to the best of our abilities. And our goal is to kind of try to simultaneously keep our right shoulder here glued to the ground while also bringing that right knee that's across to the ground. However, if we're forced to choose, keeping that right shoulder down is going to provide us with a little bit better mobility here. The knee should not be as important about getting to the ground as the shoulder. So we'll hold this for just a couple of seconds. We'll start to let our breathing slow down. Start to find our peace just a little bit. We'll unrotate here and we'll switch kick our legs. Our right leg goes straight, our left leg comes up. We'll do the same thing. We rotate across now and we have the same idea. The shoulder is more important than that knee here, and we do want to try to keep that left shoulder glued on the ground. You might be feeling this on the muscles that attach to our spine on the lower side. We might be feeling this a bit in our shoulders. There are a lot of places along our backside that we could be feeling this movement. As always, making sure we're aware of how these feel, and if anything is beyond uncomfortable, knowing that we can come out of it, we don't have to hold it. If it doesn't feel good, we don't need to be doing it. Slowly rotating out, coming back in towards our center, letting our legs just meet down out in front of us. Our arms that might have been up in a T shape or an A or a Y, letting them come down and relax right down by our sides here. We start to breathe even slower. We relax all the muscles that we've been working on today. We let them just find their natural collapsing point. I know for myself, I like to kind of flex and drop my muscles, and that will allow me personally to kind of find that natural resting place. Our eyes may close, our mouths may fall open. We start to breathe even shallower, even slower. We start to reflect on this practice. We're going to stay in our Shavasana as I come up. We just breathe here as we reflect on the last hour. We think about how this practice made us feel. We think about something we noticed or liked or maybe didn't like so much. We extend that to our day, and we think about our day, thinking about our week maybe. Maybe we're happy it's over. We just find our peace here. Now, as we maintain this Zen state, please feel free to continue this place after the practice concludes. With just a couple of minutes left, it's going to kick me off in just a minute, so I will make the final regards. So first off, thank you very much for being here. I always appreciate doing these classes. I hope those of you that attend or watch the live streams, that you enjoy them as well, because I do them for you guys. As of the other day, we've been doing this COVID-19 pandemic for 365 days. And it's tough, especially those of us in school who are having to have a much different experience than those before and then those after us. So I hope we're all taking some time to be aware of our own mental health. If you do need help, if you do feel like you need to reach out to somebody, don't wait. These times are difficult, and no one should have to go through it alone. So please keep that in mind as we move beyond the 1-year pandemic anniversary. Again, my name is Jack. If you have any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, you can leave them in the DMs to this account, OEC Computing, or GT Computing OEC. When I inevitably eventually get these videos uploaded to YouTube, you can leave a video on the YouTube account. We are currently having problems with that. I know I promised last week, but I will update you when I know more. Again, please feel free to stay in your Shavasana and continue to reflect on this practice in your time. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it a lot. Namaste, and I'll see you next week.